Welcome to the section 7 of our course. This is the final section of part 1, where we will complete the fundamentals of Blender. In this section, we will cover a few important tools that will help us organize our scenes and work more efficiently. By the end of this video, you will be ready to take the next step into the 3D modeling. So let's get started. Let's take a quick look at our progress. So far, we have learned how to install Blender. We became familiar with the interface, explored the 3D viewport and its navigation, and also worked with object transformations. Now let's learn about object management and placement. Welcome to section number 7. In this section, we'll learn how to organize our Blender scenes using outliner and collections. We will also learn how the viewport grid helps us position objects, how snapping allows us to place objects more precisely, and how to work with the 3D cursor and object origin. Once we complete this section, we'll finish our Blender fundamentals and we'll be ready to begin part number 2. So let's continue. Alright, in this lesson we'll learn how to create copies of existing objects and how to remove objects that we no longer need. These are simple but essential operations that you will use frequently while building scenes in Blender. Let's begin by duplicating an object. Select Suzanne in the viewport. To create a duplicate copy, press Shift key and D key together on your keyboard. As soon as you do, Blender creates a copy of selected object and immediately enters Move mode, allowing you to position the duplicate object. Move the mouse slightly and left click to confirm the new position. Let's create a few more copies. Select one of the Suzanne object and press Shift plus D key again. Move the duplicate to a different location and confirm the placement. You can repeat the process as many times as needed. Notice that each duplicate object is completely independent and can be transformed separately from the others. Notice that after duplicating Suzanne, a new object also appears in the outliner. The outliner displays all the objects in the scene, and each duplicate is listed as a separate object. Blender automatically adds a number to the name so that each object has a unique identifier. Let's remove one of the duplicated objects. Select a Suzanne object and press the X key on your keyboard. A delete confirmation menu will appear. Choose delete to remove the object from the scene. Another way to remove objects is by using the delete key. Select a different Suzanne object and press delete on your keyboard. The selected object will be removed from the scene. Notice that object is removed from both the viewport and the outliner. Alright, now we are going to take a closer look at the outliner. We've already used outliner several times throughout the course, but now it's time to understand its purpose and learn how it can help us organize and manage our scenes more efficiently. The outliner displays all the objects and data contained within the current scene. Think of it as a list or inventory of everything that exists in your Blender project. As your scene becomes larger and more complex, the outliner becomes an essential tool for staying organized. Let's take a look at the outliner. Notice that every object in the scene appears as a separate entry. For example, we can see objects such as camera, lights, Suzanne, and any duplicates that we have created. As we have already covered, selecting an object in the viewport also highlights it in the outliner. Similarly, selecting an object in the outliner selects it in the viewport. Sometimes objects can be difficult to select directly in the viewport, especially when you have many objects overlapping each other. In these situations, the outliner provides an easy way to select the exact object you want to work with. Simply click the object's name in the outliner to select it. By default, Blender automatically assigns name to objects. However, as the project grows, meaningful names become very important. To rename an object, double-click its name in the outliner. For example, let's rename one of our Suzanne object to Monkey Head. Press Enter to confirm the new name. Notice that object name now appears in the outliner. Now let's look at the visibility controls available in the outliner. Each object has an eye icon next to it. Clicking this icon temporarily hides the object in the viewport. Click the eye icon again to make the object visible once more. This is useful when you're working on complex scenes when you want to temporarily hide certain objects. Let's hide a few objects here. Notice that they disappear from the viewport but remain listed in the outliner. This allows us to bring them back whenever we want them. Now let's cover collections. At the top of the outliner, you'll notice a folder-like icon called Collection. Collection helps us organize objects together. You can think of a collection as a folder that helps keep related objects together. We'll use collections more frequently as our scenes become larger and more detailed. Notice a small arrow next to the collection name. Clicking this arrow allows us to expand or collapse the collection. This can help keep the outliner organized when you're working with many objects. As projects become more complex, the outliner often becomes the faster way to find objects, select objects, rename objects, hide objects, and organize objects and collections. For many Blender users, the outliner becomes one of the most frequently used editors in the entire interface. Now let's create a new collection. Right-click anywhere inside the outliner and choose New Collection option. Let's rename it to Monkey. To rename it, press the F2 key or double-click the collection name. Now, let's drag a Suzanne object into this new collection. Notice that Suzanne is now grouped separately from the other objects. Now let's explore a new way to move objects into an existing collection. We can also move all the Suzanne copies to this collection by selecting all other Suzanne objects and pressing the M shortcut key. This will open a Move to Collection menu with options to move selected objects to either a new collection or an existing one. Let's select the Monkey collection. Now all the selected objects are moved to our Monkey collection. To organize our scene furthermore, let's create another collection named Setup. Now let's select the ground plane, camera, and the light objects, and click and drag these objects to the Setup collection. Now our scene is much more organized. One advantage of collection is that we can quickly show or hide entire group of objects. Click the eye icon next to the Monkey collection. You can notice that all of the Suzanne objects are now disappeared. Let's click it again and they are back. The same works for Setup collection or any other collection. Instead of hiding objects one by one, we can control the visibility of an entire collection with a single click. As briefly discussed earlier, collections can also be collapsed and expanded. Click the small icon next to the collection. This will collapse the collection in the outliner, while keeping the collection and all its objects visible. Click it again to expand the collection. As your scene becomes larger, collapsing collection makes the outliner much easier to navigate. Don't worry about creating a lot of collections right now, but once you begin building larger projects, collection will become one of the most important tools for staying organized. Alright, that's it for this lesson. In the next lesson, we'll learn about Viewport Grid and understand how Blender uses it as a reference for positioning objects in our scene. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. That covers the basic of organizing our objects using outliner and collections. Now that we know how to organize our scene, let's look at some useful tools for positioning objects more accurately. We'll start with the Viewport Grid and then learn how snapping helps us place objects more precisely, and then finally we'll take a look at 3D cursor. So let's continue. Welcome back. Now that we have learned how to organize and duplicate objects, let's take a closer look at another important part of 3D Viewport, that is the Viewport Grid. To understand this concept, let's toggle all of the collections in our scene. The Viewport Grid acts as a visual guide that helps us understand the position and alignment of objects in our scene. You can think of it as a floor of our 3D workspace. Although it looks like floor, it's simply a visual aid that helps us work more accurately. At the center of the grid, you notice the red and green axis line intersect. This point is called world origin. Since we have turned on the visibility of z-axis, we also have a blue line here, so don't worry about it. The world origin serves as a central reference point for our entire scene. You'll frequently use this as a reference while working in Blender. Let's pay attention to the grid lines. The Viewport Grid is made of thin and thick grid lines. The thin line represents the smaller grid divisions, while the thicker lines help divide the grid into larger sections. Together they make it easy to estimate distances, align objects, and understand where the objects are positioned in the scene. Let's add a sphere in our scene by going to the Add menu and then select the mesh and then select the UV sphere. At this stage, you don't need to worry about the exact spacing between these lines, just think of them as a visual guide while working. You can notice that the sphere is positioned at the world origin, which is located at the center of the grid. Now let's see the item tab in the sidebar. Here we can see the sphere's location's value. Notice that the Y location is 0. Now let's change the value of Y location to 5. The sphere moves 5 division grids along the y-axis. Now let's change the value to 10. Notice that the sphere is now aligned with one of the thicker grid lines. This makes it much easier to estimate distances and position objects within the scene. One important thing to remember is that Viewport Grid is only visible while you're working inside the 3D viewport. It is not an actual object in our scene. If we render this scene, the grid does not appear in the final image. It's simply here to help us while we are creating and arranging objects. Now that we understand how the Viewport Grid helps us position objects, let's learn about another useful feature called snapping. Snapping allows Blender to automatically align objects to specific locations while they are being transformed. This makes it much easier to position objects accurately. At the top of the 3D viewport, in the 3D viewport header, you'll find the snapping button. As we already discovered in the previous lessons, this button is a toggle button. Clicking this button will enable or disable snapping. For this lesson, we'll use the default increment snapping mode. Let's hide the sphere, and for snapping demonstration, let's add a cube. After this, we will switch our view to the top view. Now let's press the G key to move the cube. Notice that the movement is smooth and completely free. You can also see the values in the sidebar in the item tab. Now let's enable snapping. And now let's move the cube again. This time notice that the object moves in the fixed increments instead of moving freely. The movement now follows the visible viewport grid, making it easier to position objects neatly. You may notice that snapping behaves a little differently as you zoom in and out of the viewport. Let's see what happens. First, I'll zoom out. Now when I move the object, notice that it snaps in larger increments. Next, I'll zoom in much closer. This time, the movement becomes much finer because more grid divisions are visible. In other words, increment snapping follows the visible grid. As you zoom in, Blender allows more precise movement. As you zoom out, the snapping becomes coarser, making it easier to move objects over larger distances. Snapping also works with Move tool. Let's activate the Move tool from the toolbar. Now drag one of the gizmo's arrow. Notice that the object still snaps as it moves. Whether you use keyboard shortcuts or the Move tool, snapping behaves the same way. Snapping is especially useful for arranging objects, creating evenly spaced layouts, or positioning objects more precisely. You won't always need snapping, but it's an excellent tool whenever accuracy is important. Before we continue, let's clean up our scene a little. I'll delete a few objects that we no longer need. This gives us a cleaner workspace for the next topic. Also, let's turn off snapping. Now that we have our scene cleaned up, let's take a look at another important feature in Blender, that is 3D cursor. So far, we have been using grid as a visual reference for positioning objects. Another important feature in Blender is 3D cursor. You can recognize it by its red and white circular appearance. Unlike regular objects, the 3D cursor is not part of the scene. Instead, it acts like a reference point while working in Blender. To move the 3D cursor, select the 3D cursor tool from the toolbar. Now simply click anywhere inside the 3D viewport. Notice that the 3D cursor moves to the location where we clicked. If you like to move the 3D cursor back to the center of the scene, press Shift+C keyboard shortcut. Notice the 3D cursor returns to the world origin. This is a useful shortcut that you will use quite often. The 3D cursor is used in many areas of Blender. One of its most common uses is controlling where the new objects are added to the scene. Let me show you a quick example. Let's move the 3D cursor to a new location. Now let's press Shift+A and add a cube. Notice that the new cube appears exactly where the 3D cursor is located. Now let's repeat the process and move the 3D cursor to a new location. This time, let's add a cylinder. Notice that the cylinder appears at the newly updated 3D cursor position. Let's press Shift plus C to bring back 3D cursor to the world origin. Also, let's enable the wireframe mode. Now let's look at another important concept called the object origin. Every object in Blender has its own origin. The object origin is represented by a small orange dot located at the center of the selected object. Think of it as the object's reference point. Let's select our cube. Notice the small orange dot at its center. This is the cube's object origin. When we move the object origin moves along with it. Now let's rotate the cube. Notice that the cube rotates around its object origin. The same thing happens when we scale the object. By default, the object rotate and scale around their own origin. The object origin is used by many tools and operations throughout the Blender. As you continue learning Blender, you will see how the object origin affects transformations, animations, modifiers, and many other features. Later in the course, we'll also learn how to change an object origin when needed. For now, simply remember that every object has its own origin and it serves as the object's main reference point. In this lesson, we learned how to enable snapping and use increment snapping to position the objects accurately. We also learned how the 3D cursor works and how to move it around the scene. Finally, we learned that every object has an object origin, which acts as a reference point and determines where the object rotates and scales. Alright, that is it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Alright, that brings us to the end of section 7. We have now covered the viewport grid, snapping, and the 3D cursor, giving us some useful tools for positioning and working with objects in Blender. With that, we have completed the essential topics planned for part 1.
Alright, that is it. I would like to congratulate you on completing part 1 of the course. We have taken our first steps into Blender and built the foundation. Before moving on, take some time to practice what we have learned and become comfortable working inside Blender. In part 2, we'll take the next step and start learning and editing the 3D models. If you have enjoyed the course so far, please like the video, subscribe to Talent Factory, and share it with anyone who wants to learn Blender. Thank you for learning with me and congratulations again on completing part 1. I'm Faizan from Talent Factory and I'll see you in part 2.